The medical scanner beeped 3 times. Each beep felt like a hammer hitting Kangday's chest. He sat on the cold metal chair in the Terran Defense Force Recruitment Center, watching the doctor's face grow more concerned with each passing second. "Mr. Kang," the doctor said, not looking up from his tablet, "your bone density is 40% below standard. Your lung capacity is insufficient. Your muscle tissue shows severe developmental deficiency." He finally looked up and his eyes held pity. "I'm sorry. You cannot serve." Day stood up slowly. His legs always hurt after sitting too long. "I understand. Thank you for your time." This was the 4th rejection in 2 years. He walked out of the building into the bright afternoon sun of Seoul. The city stretched around him, massive towers reaching toward the sky. Somewhere up there beyond the clouds and atmosphere, the war continued. The Vryn horde had destroyed 3 human colonies already. Everyone said Earth would be next. Day took the subway home. Around him, recruitment posters covered every wall. "Join the fight. Humanity needs you," they declared. Strong soldiers posed with weapons, looking heroic and capable. Everything Day wasn't. His apartment was small, just 1 room in a building housing 5,000 people. His mother, Kang Sumi, was cooking dinner when he entered. She looked at his face and knew immediately. "They said no again?" she asked softly. "Yes." Day sat down at the small table. Same reasons as always. His mother brought him soup. "Day, maybe this is a sign. Maybe you're meant to help in other ways. The factories need workers. The hospitals need staff. Mom, I need to do this." He looked at his hands. They were thin, weak, but they were his hands. Everyone keeps saying someone else will fight. Someone stronger. Someone better. But what if everyone thinks that way? What if all the strong people decide they're too important to risk? "You have a good heart, my son." His mother touched his shoulder. "But a good heart cannot stop bullets." That night, Day lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Through his window, he could see transport ships rising into the night sky, carrying soldiers to distant battlefields. He wanted to be on one of those ships so badly it made his chest ache worse than usual. 3 months later, everything changed. The Vryn attacked the colony on New Pyongyang with unexpected force. The news showed burning cities and screaming civilians. The defense forces were overwhelmed. Within a week, the Terran Defense Force announced emergency recruitment. The standards were being lowered. They needed every person who could hold a weapon. Day went back to the recruitment center the next morning. The same doctor was there, but his face looked tired, older. "The rules have changed," the doctor said after scanning Day again. "Your conditions haven't improved. You understand that you will struggle in basic training, that you might not survive combat?" "I understand," Day replied. The doctor sighed and stamped his file. "Report to Training Facility 7 tomorrow at dawn. May humanity's strength be with you." Day wanted to laugh at that phrase. Humanity's strength. He had none of that. But he had something else. He had the willingness to try. Basic training was worse than Day imagined. The instructor, Commander Park Yuna, was a veteran of the First Vryn War. She was tall, muscular, and had a scar running down her left cheek. When she saw Day on the first day, she walked up to him and stared for a long moment. "You're the medical exception?" she asked. "Yes, Commander. What's your name?" "Kang Day, Commander." "Well, Kang Day, I'll be honest with you. I don't think you'll make it through the first week. But if you want to try, I won't stop you." She moved on to inspect the other recruits. There were 50 recruits in his training group. Most were young, healthy, strong. They ran 5 kilometers every morning before breakfast. Day finished last every single time, sometimes 10 minutes after everyone else. His lungs burned. His legs felt like they would break. But he finished. The obstacle course was agony. While others climbed walls and jumped gaps, Day struggled with every step. He fell often. His hands bled from the rough surfaces. Other recruits started to avoid him, afraid his weakness would somehow infect them. One evening, after a particularly brutal day, a recruit named Lee Jun approached him in the mess hall. Jun was older, maybe 30, with a calm face and steady eyes. "Why do you keep trying?" Jun asked, sitting down across from Day. "No judgment. I'm genuinely curious." Dee looked at his food. His arms were so tired he could barely lift the spoon. "Because someone has to stand. If I don't, if everyone like me doesn't, then who will?" Jun nodded slowly. "That's a good answer." He stood up. "For what it's worth, I respect you more than half the others here. They're strong, but they don't have your kind of courage. Training continued for 8 brutal weeks. Dave failed most physical tests. He barely passed the weapons qualification. But he never quit. Never asked for special treatment. He just kept trying, day after day, even when his body screamed for him to stop. Commander Yuna called him to her office on the final day of training. "Kang Day," she said, looking at his file on her screen. "You have the worst scores in this facility's history. You are medically unfit for combat duty. You should not be a soldier." Day felt his heart sink. "Yes, Commander. However," she continued, "you have also shown more determination than soldiers twice your capability. I'm assigning you to logistics. You'll handle supplies, ammunition, medical equipment. You'll stay away from the front lines." She looked at him directly. "This is not an insult. Logistics keeps armies running. Without supply lines, even the strongest soldiers are useless." "I understand, Commander. Thank you." "Don't thank me yet." Her expression darkened. "The Vrin are attacking New Pyongyang in force. Every available soldier is being deployed, including fresh recruits. You ship out tomorrow." That night, Day packed his gear. His hands shook slightly as he checked his equipment list. 1 uniform, 1 helmet, 1 sidearm he barely knew how to use. Medical kit, ration packs. Everything felt too heavy, but he couldn't leave anything behind. He called his mother from the base communication center. "Mom, I'm being deployed tomorrow." There was a long silence. "Where?" "New Pyongyang." Another silence. I'm proud of you. Your father would be proud too." His father had died in a factory accident when Day was 10. He barely remembered the man's face, but he remembered his father saying once, "A man's worth isn't in his strength. It's in what he does with whatever strength he has." "I'll be in logistics, Mom. Away from the fighting. I'll be safe." "You were never a good liar, my son." Her voice cracked slightly. "Come home. Promise me you'll come home." "I promise to try my best. That's all I can ask." She was crying now. "I love you." "I love you too, Mom." The next morning, Day boarded the transport ship with 200 other soldiers. The ship was massive, designed to carry troops and equipment across the galaxy. He found his bunk in the logistics section and stored his gear. As the ship lifted off from Earth, Day pressed his hand against the cold metal wall and felt the engines rumble through his bones. He was leaving home, heading toward a war he was completely unprepared for. But he was going anyway, because someone had to stand. The transport ship called Indomitable took 3 weeks to reach New Pyongyang. 3 weeks floating through the dark between stars, surrounded by 200 soldiers who all seemed stronger, faster, and braver than Kang Day. He spent most of his time in the logistics bay, learning his duties from a tired sergeant named Cho Minho. Minho was 40 years old, with gray in his hair and a permanent frown on his face. He had fought in 4 campaigns and survived them all through, as he said, not being stupid. "Listen carefully, Kang," Minho said on the second day, showing him how to organize ammunition crates. "Logistics soldiers die just like combat soldiers. The enemy doesn't check your assignment before shooting you. You understand?" "Yes, Sergeant." "The difference is combat soldiers train to kill the enemy. You train to keep our soldiers supplied so they can kill the enemy. You fail at your job, good people die." Minho grabbed a plasma rifle from a weapons rack. "You know how to use one of these." "Barely passed qualification, Sergeant." "That's not good enough." For the next hour, Minho drilled him on weapon maintenance, loading, and firing positions. Day's arms ached from holding the rifle up, but Minho didn't let him rest. "Pain is temporary. Death is permanent. Remember that." In his 3rd week aboard ship, Day met Private Kim Hana. She was a medic, 22 years old, with short black hair and quick, efficient movements. He literally bumped into her in a corridor, stumbling because the ship had just adjusted course. She caught him before he fell. "Careful," she said, steadying him. "Are you all right?" "Yes, sorry. Still getting used to walking on ships." She looked at him more carefully. "You're limping." "Let me check that." "It's nothing. I always limp a little. I'm a medic. Nothing means something to me." She led him to a small medical station nearby and had him sit down. Her hands were gentle as she examined his leg. "Genetic condition?" "Yes, born with it." "And they still let you enlist?" She sounded surprised. "Emergency recruitment. They needed bodies." Hana finished her examination and sat back. "Your bone structure is fragile. Your muscles are underdeveloped. You're going to injure yourself constantly in a combat zone." She wasn't being mean, just stating facts. Why did you join? Because someone has to. She studied his face for a moment, then smiled slightly. That's either very brave or very foolish. I haven't decided which yet. Maybe both, Day admitted. Well, Kang Day, try not to hurt yourself too badly. I have a feeling I'll be treating you a lot. She stood up. Come find me if you need anything. Medical Bay, Deck 3. After that, they talked often. Hana was from Busan, had joined the military to pay for her medical education. She was practical, smart, and treated everyone with the same efficient kindness. What do you think the Vryn are like? Day asked her one evening in the mess hall. Around them, other soldiers laughed and talked, trying to forget where they were heading. The training videos show they're insectoid. About 3 meters tall, armored exoskeletons, 6 limbs. They can rip through steel with their claws. Hana stirred her soup without eating. The reports say they don't take prisoners. They just kill everything human. That's terrifying. Yes. She finally looked at him. D, when we land, stay in the supply depots. Don't try to be a hero. You're not built for combat, and that's okay. We need people like you keeping the supplies moving. I know my limitations, Day said quietly. I'm not planning to charge the enemy. I just want to do my part. Corporal Lee Jun joined them then, carrying his meal tray. Mind if I sit? Please, Hana said. Jun had been friendly to Day since basic training. He was a veteran of one campaign, steady and reliable. We're getting close to New Pyongyang, he said quietly. Commander briefed the squad leaders today. It's bad. Really bad. How bad? Day asked. The Vryn landed with over 1 million warriors. They've overrun half the colony. The civilian population is 3 million. Most are trapped in cities under siege. Jun ate mechanically, barely tasting his food. We're not going there to win. We're going to evacuate as many people as possible before the planet falls. Hana went pale. Evacuation? We're abandoning the colony? We don't have the forces to hold it. The main fleet is defending Earth and the core worlds. We're just a rescue mission. Jun looked at both of them. Stay close to evacuation points. When the order comes to leave, don't hesitate. This isn't a battle we can win. The mess hall suddenly felt quieter, despite the noise around them. The next day, they arrived at New Pyongyang. Day stood in the observation deck with dozens of other soldiers looking down at the planet below. It should have been beautiful. Green continents, blue oceans, white clouds. Instead, he could see the fires. Entire sections of the main continent were burning. Smoke-covered regions the size of countries. Everyone to drop positions. A voice announced over the speakers. We deploy in 30 minutes. Logistics personnel to Bay 4. Combat units to Bays 1 through 3. The organized chaos of military deployment began. Day rushed to Bay 4, where Sergeant Minho was already shouting orders. Listen up. We're establishing forward operating base Taiyang, 10 kilometers from the capital city evacuation point. Our job is to keep the combat units supplied, while they protect the civilian transports. We move ammunition, food, medical supplies, and we do it fast. Questions? Nobody asked questions. They knew their jobs. The dropships were designed to carry troops and cargo through hostile fire. Day strapped into his seat, his supply pack between his legs, and felt his stomach drop as the ship launched from the Indomitable. Through the small windows, he could see other dropships falling toward the planet like meteors. The descent was rough. The ship shook and rattled. Someone vomited. Someone else prayed. Day just held onto his straps and tried to breathe steadily. They hit atmosphere and everything became fire and noise. Then they were through, descending toward the landing zone. Day could see the ground now, rushing up to meet them. The capital city of New Pyongyang was visible in the distance, a sprawling metropolis of 10 million people. Smoke rose from hundreds of locations. The dropship landed hard. The rear hatch dropped open and Sergeant Minho was already moving. Out! 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 Establish the perimeter. Get those supply crates unloaded. Day stumbled down the ramp and onto alien soil for the first time in his life. The air smelled of smoke and something else, something chemical and wrong. The sky was orange from fires on the horizon. Around him, soldiers ran in organized chaos. Supply crates were being unloaded from multiple dropships. Combat units were setting up defensive positions. Officers shouted orders. Hana appeared beside him, medical bag over her shoulder. Stay close to the base, Day, promise me. I promise. She squeezed his arm once, then ran toward the medical tent being erected 50 meters away. For the next 6 hours, Day worked harder than he ever had in his life. He hauled ammunition crates that seemed to weigh more than him. He organized medical supplies. He helped set up the logistics depot, making sure everything was cataloged and accessible. His body screamed in pain, but he didn't stop. Nobody stopped. As evening fell, the sound of weapons fire echoed from the east. It was distant but constant, like thunder that never ended. June returned with his squad around midnight. They looked exhausted, dirty, and scared. 3 members of the squad were missing. The Vryn pushed through Sector 7, June told Day while grabbing ammunition. We held them back, but barely. There's so many of them, like a tide that never stops coming. What are they like? Day asked. Up close? June's face went hard. Nightmares. Living nightmares. They're fast, strong, and they don't stop unless you destroy their central nervous system. Body shots barely slow them down. He loaded his rifle with practiced efficiency, and they make this sound when they attack. Like screaming metal. You'll hear it in your nightmares forever if you survive. An explosion lit up the eastern horizon, bright enough to cast shadows. Sergeant Minho appeared from the command tent. Everyone listen. We're pulling back to evacuation point Echo. The line is collapsing faster than expected. We evacuate civilians first, then wounded, then combat troops. Logistics packs up last. We move in 1 hour. People rush to follow orders. Day helped load critical supplies onto transport trucks. They couldn't take everything. So much equipment would be left behind. Hana worked in the medical tent, stabilizing wounded soldiers for transport. Day saw her through the tent opening, her hands covered in blood, her face focused and calm despite the chaos. The convoy formed up. Trucks, armed vehicles, soldiers on foot, and hundreds of frightened civilians who had fled from the city. Children crying, parents holding them close. Old people helped by younger ones. This was what they were fighting for. These people. They moved west toward the mountains where the main evacuation point waited. Behind them, the sound of gunfire grew closer. Day rode in the back of a supply truck surrounded by ammunition crates and exhausted soldiers. The truck bounced over rough terrain. In the distance, he could see the mountain pass they were heading toward. It looked like a cut through the mountains, steep walls on both sides. Someone said it was called Hansel Ridge. Day watched the eastern horizon, where fire and smoke turned the night sky orange. Somewhere back there, soldiers were dying to buy time for this convoy, dying so that the people around him could live. Forward Operating Base Taeyang lasted 18 hours before it had to be abandoned completely. By dawn, Kang Day understood what war truly meant. It meant noise that never stopped. Explosions in the distance. Gunfire like endless rain. Wounded soldiers screaming. Officers shouting orders that barely made sense through the chaos. Day hauled supply crates from one location to another, moving ammunition to defensive positions, carrying medical supplies to the field hospital tent. His arms felt like they were tearing apart. His legs shook with every step. But there was no time to rest. People needed these supplies to survive. At noon, the Vryn broke through Sector 5. Day was loading plasma charges onto a transport cart when he heard the sound. It started as a distant screech like metal scraping against metal, but worse. Much worse. It made his teeth hurt and his stomach twist. Then he saw them. 3 Vryn warriors came over a ridge 500 meters away. They moved impossibly fast for their size. Each one 3 meters tall, covered in black chitinous armor that gleamed in the sunlight. 6 limbs. The front 2 ended in claws the size of swords. Their heads were triangular, with mandibles that clicked and snapped. The defensive turrets opened fire immediately. Plasma bolts tore through the air, hitting the lead Vryn and burning holes in its armor. It screamed that terrible metallic sound and kept charging. It took 7 direct hits before it finally collapsed. The other 2 split up, moving with tactical intelligence that terrified Day more than their physical appearance. These weren't mindless beasts. They were thinking, planning. Human soldiers met them with rifle fire. 1 Vryn went down after concentrated fire destroyed its head section. The 3rd crashed into defensive position. 3 before being killed by a magnetic grenade that crushed its torso. The fight lasted 90 seconds. 12 human soldiers died in those 90 seconds. Get the wounded to medical, Sergeant Minho shouted. Resupply position 3, move. Day ran toward position 3 with a cart of ammunition. He had to pass the dead Vryn. Up close, it was even worse. The smell was like burned chemicals and rotten meat. Its claws had torn through steel barriers like paper. Dark blue blood pooled under its body. A young soldier, maybe 19 years old, sat against a wall nearby, crying. His rifle lay forgotten beside him. "Get up," Minho said, appearing next to the boy. His voice wasn't angry, just firm. "I know it's terrifying. But we need you. Get up." The boy wiped his eyes and picked up his rifle. That was war. Being terrified and doing your job anyway. By mid-afternoon, the situation had deteriorated further. Reports came in from all sectors. The Vryn were attacking in coordinated waves. Thousands of them. The human forces were outnumbered 10-1, maybe worse. Day found Hana in the medical tent. She was covered in blood, working on a soldier who was missing his left arm. "I need plasma here," she shouted. Another medic rushed over with an IV bag. "Stay with me," Hana told the wounded soldier. "Stay with me. You're going to be okay." The soldier died 30 seconds later. Hana stood there for a moment, hands still on his chest, then forced herself to move to the next patient. She saw Day watching and just shook her head. There were no words. Corporal Lee Jun returned an hour later with what remained of his squad. He had left with 8 soldiers. 4 came back. Jun himself had a deep cut across his shoulder, blood soaking his uniform. "Sit down," Day told him, grabbing a medical kit. "Let me clean that. I'm fine. I need to sit down." Day used a tone he didn't know he had. Jun sat. Day cleaned the wound with shaking hands, applied medical gel, and bandaged it. His training kicked in, making his movements more efficient than he expected. "Thanks," Jun said quietly. He looked exhausted, far beyond just physical tiredness. "We can't hold them, Day. There's too many. For everyone we kill, 10 more appear. It's impossible. Then what do? We evacuate. Get as many people out as possible." Jun accepted water from Day and drank deeply. "Command is setting up a final evacuation point at Hansel Ridge. It's a mountain pass, the only route to the main spaceport. If we can get everyone through there, the transport ships can lift them off planet." "How many people?" "Maybe 3,000. Civilians and wounded soldiers, everyone who can't fight anymore." Commander Park Yuna called an assembly at 1700 hours. Every available soldier gathered around her position. There were maybe 200 left from the original 1,000 who had deployed. So many faces were missing. "Listen carefully," Commander Yuna said. Her voice was hoarse from shouting orders all day. "We are abandoning this position. We fall back to Hansel Ridge. The civilians and wounded are already moving there. Our job is to get them through the pass to the spaceport. The transport ships will evacuate everyone off planet." "What about us?" someone asked. "The last transport will take combat-capable soldiers. Everyone else goes first. We hold until the last civilian is aboard." She looked at each of them. "The pass is narrow, defensible. If we can hold it for 40 minutes, we can save 3,000 lives." Nobody spoke. 40 minutes sounded both impossibly short and impossibly long. "Move out in 15 minutes. Pack only essential supplies. We travel fast and light." The convoy formed up quickly. Military trucks, armed vehicles, and a long line of walking soldiers. Day helped load the final medical supplies. Hana worked alongside him, her face smudged with dirt and blood. "This is really bad, isn't it?" Day said quietly. "Yes," Hana replied. "But we're getting people out. That matters." The journey to Hansel Ridge took 3 hours. They moved through rough terrain, following old mining roads. Behind them, the sound of explosions grew steadily closer. The Vryn were following. Day rode in a truck with other logistics personnel. He watched the landscape pass by. New Pyongyang was beautiful in a harsh way. Red rocks, purple vegetation, twin moons rising in the afternoon sky. It should have been peaceful. Instead, it was a tomb. They reached Hansel Ridge as the sun began to set. The pass was exactly as described. A narrow cut through the mountains, maybe 50 meters wide at its narrowest point. Steep walls rose on both sides, making it impossible to flank. The civilian transports were already loading at the far end of the pass. Day could see lines of people boarding, helped by soldiers and medics. Children, elderly, wounded, getting them to safety. Commander Yuna stood at the narrow point of the pass, looking east where the Vryn would come from. Her face was carved from stone. "Set up defensive positions here," she ordered. "Heavy weapons at the choke point. Mines on the approaches. We need to buy 40 minutes. Soldiers moved to obey. They set up plasma repeaters, prepared ammunition, placed explosive charges. Everyone knew what was coming. Day helped establish a supply point 50 meters behind the defensive position. Ammunition, medical supplies, power cells for the heavy weapons. Everything organized and ready. An hour passed. The sun set completely and New Pyongyang's 2 moons provided cold light. The transports continued loading. Slowly. Too slowly. Sergeant Minho found Day. How many power cells do we have for the repeaters? 30? Maybe 40 minutes of continuous fire. That'll have to be enough. Minho looked at the defensive line. Stay here. Keep the supplies organized. When I call for something, bring it fast. Understand? Yes, Sergeant. At 2100 hours, the Vryn appeared on the eastern horizon. Someone had binoculars and counted. At least 2,000. Maybe more. The number seemed impossible. 2,000 alien warriors against 200 human soldiers. The Vryn began their approach. They didn't charge immediately. They moved forward steadily like a tide of darkness, their metal-screaming battle cry echoing off the mountains. Hold fire, Commander Yuna ordered. Let them get close. Make every shot count. Day watched from the supply point. His heart hammered in his chest. He had never been this afraid in his life. The Vryn reached 500 meters. 400. 300. Fire. The defensive line erupted with light and sound. Plasma repeaters tore into the Vryn front ranks. Explosions from mines threw bodies into the air. The narrow pass forced the aliens into a kill zone where every shot hit multiple targets. But they kept coming. The first wave crashed against the defensive position like water against rocks. Vryn died by the dozens, but more pushed forward over their bodies. The soldiers fought with desperate efficiency, but gaps began to appear in the line. Fall back to secondary position, Commander Yuna ordered. The soldiers retreated 20 meters, leaving mines and traps behind. The Vryn followed and more died, but not enough. Day ran ammunition to the line. A soldier grabbed power cells without looking at him, slammed them into the repeater, kept firing. The weapon's barrel glowed red hot. A Vryn broke through on the left flank. It killed 2 soldiers before concentrated fire brought it down. We can't hold, someone shouted. We hold for 30 more minutes. Commander Yuna fired her rifle, calm in the chaos. Keep fighting. But the line was breaking. Too many Vryn, not enough soldiers. A massive explosion somewhere to the right. Someone had detonated the fuel depot, taking dozens of Vryn with it. The smell of burning chemicals filled the air. Hana was treating wounded soldiers behind the line. Her face was spattered with blood, but her hands stayed steady. June appeared next to Day, grabbing ammunition. How much longer until the transports are loaded? Day checked his communicator. 20 minutes. They need 20 more minutes. For a moment, nobody spoke. The sounds of battle echoed through the pass, but in that small circle around Commander Yuna, there was only silence and stares. Absolutely not, Sergeant Minho said immediately. Kang, your logistics. You've barely held a weapon in combat. I know, Day replied. His voice was steady despite the fear racing through his body. But I can operate the repeater. You showed me how. And someone needs to hold this position. He's right that someone needs to stay, Commander Yuna said slowly. She looked around at the other soldiers. But every combat-capable soldier is needed to guard the transports. If Vryn break through on another route, we need defenders there. Then let me do this. Day met her eyes. I'm the weakest soldier here. Everyone knows it. But I can pull a trigger. I can hold a position for 40 minutes. Day, no. Hana appeared from the medical area, her face pale. You can't, you'll die. Someone will die. Day looked at each of them. The Vryn won't stop unless someone holds them here. This pass is narrow. One person with a heavy weapon can do it. At least for a little while. This is insane, June said, but his voice was quiet. Everyone could see the tactical reality. They needed someone to stay. And every combat-trained soldier was worth more in protecting the transports than in this suicide mission. Commander Yuna studied Day for a long moment. You understand what you're volunteering for? You won't be coming back. I understand. Why? Why would you do this? Day thought about his mother, about the recruitment office and all the rejections, about being the weakest person in every room, about what June had said in basic training. Because someone has to stand, he said quietly, and if not me, then it would be someone else. Someone stronger, someone with more to give. At least this way my life means something. Yuna's jaw tightened. Then she nodded once. All right. We set you up with everything you need. Minho, show him the full operating procedure for the heavy repeater. Everyone else prepare for final evacuation. The next 15 minutes were the strangest of Day's life. Minho brought him to the heaviest plasma repeater they had, positioned at the absolute narrowest point of the pass. The weapon was massive, designed to be operated by 2 soldiers. It could fire continuously for 30 minutes before overheating. The trigger is here, Minho explained, his voice rough. Keep it pressed. The weapon auto-aims within this cone, see the targeting display? It compensates for recoil. You just hold the trigger and sweep back and forth across the approach. I understand. These are power cells. You have 10. Each lasts 3 minutes of continuous fire. When one depletes, hit this release slot in the next. It takes 5 seconds. Those 5 seconds, you're vulnerable. Understood. Minho showed him the ammunition feed, the cooling system, the emergency shutdown. Everything rapid fire, trying to cram training into minutes. Then he grabbed Day's shoulder. I misjudged you in basic training. I thought you were weak. I was wrong. You're the strongest person I've ever met. I'm terrified, Sergeant. Good. Fear keeps you alert. Minho pressed something into Day's hand. A combat knife. When the ammunition runs out, use this. Aim for the joint where the head meets the thorax. Only vulnerable spot you can reach. Day clipped the knife to his belt. June came next, carrying crates of extra power cells. I'm leaving you all the ammunition we can spare. 20 power cells total. That's over an hour if you're efficient. I only need 40 minutes. Take the extra anyway. June stacked the crates within easy reach. Day, I'm sorry you have to do this. Don't be. I'm glad I can help. June pulled out a small data chip. This is footage of my daughter. She's 6. Lives on Earth with her mother. If you somehow survive this, tell her I was thinking of her. I will, Day lied. They both knew he wouldn't survive. June clasped his hand once, then walked away quickly. Hana was last. She carried a medical injector. This is military-grade painkiller. Enough to keep you fighting even with serious injuries. Use it when you need to. Thank you. Her voice broke. This isn't fair. You shouldn't have to do this, and someone does. Better me than you. You save lives. I'm just someone who can hold a trigger. You're more than that. Tears ran down her face. You're brave. You're kind. You matter. Then I'll matter here. He tried to smile. Get everyone out safely, Hana. That's all I want. She kissed his forehead quickly, then ran back toward the transports before he could see her cry more. Commander Yuna was the last to speak with him. The moment the last transport lifts, you run. Don't be a hero. If you can survive, do it. Yes, Commander. I'll put you in for the Medal of Valor. Your name will be remembered. Tell my mother I stood my ground. I will. She saluted him. A full formal salute to a logistics private. Humanity thanks you, soldier. Then they were all leaving. The soldiers pulled back, helping wounded and civilians toward the waiting transports. The sound of their footsteps faded. Day stood alone at the narrow point of Hansel Ridge with a weapon he barely knew how to use and enough ammunition for about an hour of continuous fighting. He checked the weapon one more time. Power cell loaded, targeting system active, cooling system online. His hands shook as he gripped the handles. Through his communicator, Commander Yuna's voice crackled. Day, we're loading the final transport now. Estimate 35 minutes until liftoff. The Vrin are regrouping for another push. They'll hit your position in approximately 5 minutes. Understood, Commander. I'm ready. He wasn't ready. He would never be ready. But ready or not, this was happening. Day looked at the approach before him. The pass narrowed here to barely 40 meters. Bodies littered the ground from earlier fighting, both human and Vrin. The twin moons provided cold light, making everything look unreal. His communicator crackled again. This time it was June. Day, you don't have to do this. We can find another way. There is no other way. We both know it. Silence. Then, make them pay for every meter. I will. Day thought about his mother, about his small apartment in Seoul, about wanting to be a soldier since he was a child, about every rejection, every failure, every time someone told him he wasn't strong enough. Maybe they were right. Maybe he wasn't strong enough, but he was here anyway. He heard them before he saw them. That terrible metal screaming sound echoing through the mountains. The Vrin were coming. Then he saw the first ones appearing in the moonlight. Dozens. Hundreds. A dark tide flowing toward his position. Day's finger found the trigger. Come on then, he whispered to himself. Someone has to stand. The first Vrin reached 200 meters, 100 meters, 50 meters. Just hold, Day told himself. Just hold. The Vryn charged. Day pressed the trigger. The plasma repeater roared to life with a sound like thunder that never stopped. Brilliant blue-white bolts tore through the air, each one a spear of superheated energy. The weapon's recoil tried to tear itself from Day's grip, but the stabilization system held it steady. The leading Vryn disappeared in explosions of vaporized chitin and boiling blue blood. Day swept the weapon back and forth across the narrow pass, exactly as Sergeant Minho had taught him. The targeting computer tracked targets, helping his aim. The Vryn packed themselves into the bottleneck, and every shot hit 2 or 3 of them, but they kept coming. The bodies started piling up within 30 seconds. Dead Vryn created obstacles, forcing the living ones to climb over their fallen. This slowed them down, made them easier targets. D kept firing, his arms already aching from holding the weapon's grip. Day, you're doing it. Commander Yuna's voice came through his communicator. Keep them bottled up. 30 minutes left. 30 minutes. An eternity. A Vryn warrior broke through the kill zone, somehow surviving multiple hits. It was missing one arm and part of its carapace, but it charged straight at Day's position. 20 meters. 10 meters. D concentrated fire on it. The plasma bolts punched through its thorax, its head, its legs. It collapsed 5 meters from his position, sliding forward from momentum until it stopped almost at his feet. Up close, he could see into its eyes. They were black, multifaceted, like an insect's eyes, but intelligent. The intelligence was worst part. This wasn't a mindless beast. It was a thinking being that wanted him dead. He kept firing. The first power cell depleted after exactly 3 minutes of continuous fire. The weapon beeped a warning. D released the spent cell, grabbed a fresh one from the crate, slammed it home. The weapon came back online. The entire process took 7 seconds. In those 7 seconds, the Vryn surged forward 15 meters before he could stop them. More bodies piled up. The narrow pass was becoming choked with corpses. The Vryn had to literally climb over mountains of their own dead to reach him. Day's shoulders burned. The weapon's recoil, even stabilized, was slowly bruising him. He could feel something grinding in his left wrist with every shot. But he didn't stop. 25 minutes. Commander Yuna updated. A group of Vryn tried flanking, climbing up the steep walls of the pass. They were good climbers, but the walls gave them no cover. Day elevated his aim and cut them down. They fell 50 meters onto the rocks below. The second power cell depleted. Change it. 5 seconds of vulnerability. The third cell clicked into place. Keep firing. The Vryn changed tactics. They started throwing things. Rocks, pieces of debris, their own dead. Anything to disrupt his fire. A rock the size of Day's head flew at him. He ducked. It hit the repeater's shield, cracking but not breaking it. Good shield, Day muttered. His throat was dry. When had he last had water? He couldn't remember. 20 minutes. The transports were still loading. Still needed time. Third power cell depleted. Fourth inserted. The pile of Vryn bodies was now so high that the living ones used it as partial cover. Day had to adjust his fire pattern, aiming at the gaps, catching them as they climbed. His arms were shaking. Not from fear anymore. From pure physical exhaustion. His genetic condition meant his muscles fatigued faster than normal. He had been holding this weapon, firing continuously for over 15 minutes. His body was breaking down, the painkiller. Hana had given him painkiller. Day reached for the injector with one hand, keeping the other on the trigger. He pressed it against his neck and felt the cold rush as the medicine hit his bloodstream. The pain receded. Not gone, but distant. His muscles still trembled, but he could control them better. That's it, he told himself. That's better. A Vryn warrior, larger than the others, charged through the kill zone. It took hit after hit and kept coming. Some kind of leader, maybe, or just incredibly tough. Day concentrated all fire on it. The warrior made it to 10 meters before finally going down. But in focusing on it, Day had let others advance. 3 Vryn were suddenly at 30 meters and closing fast. He swept fire across them. 2 fell, the third ducked behind a rock. 15 minutes. The fourth power cell depleted. Fifth inserted. The hidden Vryn burst from cover. Fast. Too fast. Day fired, hit it twice in the thorax, but it didn't stop. It reached his position. He abandoned the repeater, pulling Minho's knife from his belt. The Vryn's claw came at him. He ducked under it, the claw scraping against the rock wall behind him. The knife felt tiny in his hand compared to the massive alien. The joint where the head meets the thorax. Minho's instructions. The Vryn raised both claws to strike. Day stepped forward inside its reach and drove the knife upward into the joint. The blade punched through softer tissue into whatever neural cluster the Vryn had there. The creature spasmed and collapsed. Its weight nearly crushed Day as it fell. He scrambled back to the repeater, hands covered in blue alien blood. His left arm wasn't working right. The Vryn had hit him without him realizing. He looked down. 3 deep cuts across his forearm, blood soaking his uniform. No time. Keep fighting. He fired one-handed. The weapon's stabilization compensated, but his aim was worse. It didn't matter. The pass was so narrow he couldn't miss. Day, your vital signs are dropping. Hana's voice panicked over the communicator. You're injured. I'm fine. Keep loading. You're not fine. Your heart rate, keep loading. 10 minutes. Just 10 more minutes. The pile of Vryn dead was enormous now. Hundreds of bodies. Maybe 1,000. The living ones were having trouble getting over the mountain of corpses. They slipped on their own blue blood. Fell back. Tried again. Day kept firing. 5th cell depleted. 6th inserted. His left arm was useless now, hanging at his side. He operated the repeater one-handed, which meant he couldn't reload as quickly. But he managed. The Vryn tried one more surge, throwing everything at him. Dozens at once, sacrificing themselves to overwhelm his fire. They got close. Very close. Day burned through the 6th power cell in 90 seconds of maximum fire rate. 7th cell. Bodies everywhere. The smell was indescribable. Burned chitin, boiling blood, his own blood. The metal scream of dying Vryn. 5 minutes. 5 more minutes, Day. He could do 5 minutes. He could do anything for 5 minutes except his body was failing. The painkiller was wearing off. He could feel his ribs grinding with each breath. When had he cracked his ribs? He couldn't remember. Vision blurring. Blood loss probably, or shock, or both. The weapon felt impossibly heavy. 3 minutes. The Vryn surge was slowing. They had lost too many. Even their willingness to die had limits. The pile of corpses was too high. The kill zone too effective, 7th cell depleted, 8th inserted, his hand slipped. The cell almost fell. He caught it. Loaded it, keep firing, 2 minutes. The last transport is lifting. You did it, Day. You did it. He had done it. 3,000 people were safe. The civilians, the wounded, everyone. They would reach the spaceport. They would escape this doomed planet, and all it cost was him. The Vryn were pulling back. They had lost maybe 1,500 warriors to 1 human with 1 gun. It wasn't worth it anymore. Day, run, Commander Yuna ordered. The transport is clear. Get to the secondary evac point. Run. She wanted him to run. The thought was almost funny. He could barely stand. He released the trigger. The repeater went silent. His ears rang in the sudden quiet. Smoke drifted across the battlefield. Bodies everywhere. Day tried to stand. His legs didn't work. He looked down. His right leg was bent at a wrong angle below the knee. He hadn't even felt it break. I can't run, Commander, he said into the communicator. His voice sounded distant to his own ears. My leg's broken. Maybe both. I can't feel them anymore. Do you know? No. That was Hana. We're coming back for you. Don't, he meant it. The Vryn are just regrouping. If you come back, you'll die too. Get everyone to safety. That was the mission. We don't leave people behind. You're not leaving me behind. I'm staying behind. There's a difference. Day looked at the pass ahead, toward the spaceport where the transports were leaving. Did everyone make it onto the ships? A pause. Then Commander Yuna. Yes, all 3,000. Everyone survived. Good, that's good. Through the smoke, Day could see the Vryn regrouping. They would come again soon. And this time, he had maybe 2 power cells left, and he couldn't stand. Hana, he said quietly. I'm here. Tell my mother I stood my ground. Please. You can tell her yourself when... Hana, please. A long silence. Then through tears, I'll tell her. I promise. Thank you. Day checked his remaining power cells. 2 left, maybe 6 minutes of firing. Commander, I'm going to hold them as long as I can. Make sure the transports get far enough away that the Vryn can't follow. Acknowledged. Kangde, it has been an honor. The honor was mine, Commander. He cut the communication before they could argue more, before he had to hear Hana crying, before his resolve broke. The Vryn finished regrouping. Here they came again. Day pulled himself back to the repeater. His broken leg dragged behind him, but he barely felt it. The painkiller was completely gone now, but shock was doing the job instead. He loaded the 9th power cell. His hands were steady. After everything, his hands were finally steady. The Vryn charged. Day fired. His world narrowed to just this: the trigger, the targets, the weapon's roar. Nothing else mattered. Not the pain. Not the fear. Not even his own life.